Watch this.
You'd think schools in small-town Idaho would be insulated from controversial library book inquests. Not these days. Even rural Riggins has received challenges. There's an old expression about being left high and dry, and we've never seen that situation played out as perfectly as we did last summer at Lucky Peak. Well, that boat is now back with its owner, but without what it started with. Another Oregon county signing on to become part of Idaho. But the original idea for an expanded gem state is actually getting smaller. Greater Idaho leaning lesser.
There's a war going on, and the scariest thing about this war is that these tactics that are being waged against society, most people are just unaware it's even happening.
That is Representative Heather Scott from Blanchard up in Bonner County, up in Idaho's Panhandle. And she was part of a presentation at Regeneration Calvary Chapel in Kootenai about how to remove inappropriate materials from Idaho schools and libraries. She referred to it as a war of perversion against our children, an orchestrated attack on their minds and their souls, and one that hasn't happened overnight. Well, during the hour-long talk last month, she made a lot of comments like this.
Does anyone here even remember when local school boards across the country began writing policies to promote the girls using the boys' bathrooms and the boys using the girls' bathrooms and showers? How long ago was that? Do we know when, do you remember when Drag Queen Hour even started, or the drag queens were reading to the little children? When did that start? When did school counselors start doing counseling to counsel children to change their sex and then hide it from the parents? And when did the high school boys, I went to Taco Bell the other day, and the boy had the longest fingernails I'd ever seen, painted, lipstick. When did this happen?
When did this happen? The fingernail and lipstick thing? Oh, I don't know. At least 40 years ago. Well, for the sake of time, we're just going to walk past the part where she said, I went to Taco Bell the other day, which is probably a sentence that shouldn't be uttered by any person of a certain age. But anyway, this presentation Representative Scott was involved with last month came on the heels of the defeat of House Bill 666, the one that would have removed the disseminating harmful materials to minors exemption from libraries and schools. But just because the Senate considered it mischief and killed it doesn't mean it would just die.
And when did we allow a law in this state to say that it was okay for libraries across Idaho to promote pornography? Give them an exemption.
1972, actually, but it didn't say it was okay for libraries to promote pornography, and we've spoken to several of them around the state, and that's not what they do. But a lot of Idahoans believe they do, and starting questioning what books they were seeing in their school libraries. For example, just about 10 days ago, Nampa School District permanently removed 22 books from their library shelves. The reasons why were plenty. In fact, we're still waiting for a response from the Nampa School District on whether any of those books had actually been challenged by parents. Well, after seeing that story, a school librarian in Riggins reached out to us. Ashley Mays teaches, and has been an English teacher, I should say, at Salmon River High School, the junior and senior high schools there, since 2005. She's also been the district librarian since 2013, meaning she helps choose the books that are on the shelves based on selection criteria, which is clearly explained in policy, she says. They also choose books based on student interest, and they also get some through donations. All told, she manages about 10,000 books between the elementary school and the high school. Ashley says interest in library books picked up about a year ago when they had 2 books challenged. She said she didn't have that many challenges in all of the previous 10 years combined, all of which were resolved with just a conversation. Well, that was also about the same time, last spring, when school board meetings went from about 10 people at the Salmon School District, 10 people in attendance back last spring, to about 70 by October, Ashley said, all to rework a reconsideration policy when it comes to books in the library. So they made one. But it took about a year to do so because of that sudden increase in community involvement, in which Ashley says she had to endure public defamation, and she also had to witness book burning. And there seemed to be a theme with the books being questioned in Riggins. The first one, Drama, by Raina Telgemeier, and the second, Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, 100 Tales of Extraordinary Women.
The one page that was problematic was about Coy Mathis, who it was a transgender student whose family was largely responsible for the transgender bathroom bill. But the challenge was specifically related to that particular page. The other book was about a relationship, a young relationship in which a young female character finds out that someone that she had a crush on happened to be gay. And the ending is a story of tolerance and acceptance, but the people who had a problem with the book didn't think that it fit in our elementary library.
Had any of these books been checked out, like on a regular basis?
I did a report in the last 2 years, a circulation report, and had 6,000 books go through our scanner. And less than 40 of those were for those 2 books in 2 years.
Any of those books contain anything that would be considered graphic depictions or descriptions or obscenity?
No.
But yet somebody had a problem with them?
With a page or 2 in the book, yep. When I was asked to remove them, I simply was very concerned about that because we just can't remove books. And so at that point, working closely with my administration, we decided that we needed to have a policy in place so that parents can have a say in what his or her own child experiences in the library, and then what to do if they think that nobody should be reading those books.
Why do you think there's this kind of heightened scrutiny of what's going on with school libraries and such all of a sudden?
I wish I had a good answer for that. I don't know if it's a combination of fear, what seems to be an easy target historically, but honestly, I honestly do not have a good answer for that.
When somebody like Representative Heather Scott says this considers, this back and forth between libraries and schools and parents and the community.
I think that it's maybe not been as obvious, it's not been as sudden, and it's a war of perversion against our children. It's an orchestrated attack on their minds and their souls.
What do you think about something like that?
I have honestly found it terrifying. I have spent, and I know other librarians and teachers who have found themselves in this similar situation have honestly felt sick to my stomach. The idea that someone without a conversation or without any evidence or proof of what's going on in our local library or any other local library is hurtful and it's harmful. I work with children, I coach children, I have 4 children of my own, and to be personally insinuated that those things are happening or that people that I highly regard in my profession and institution is alarming.
Why did you want to reach out and say, hey, here's what's happening in Riggins?
I felt that when this started a year ago, that I, being the only librarian in the district, felt very alone in the work that I was doing. And so being able to reach out to other librarians and now hearing lots of other stories of where this is happening, I wanted to serve as like a precautionary or an opportunity to educate others on the rights that parents and students have and the professional responsibility that librarians have. It is not up to us to decide what somebody should or should not read.
It's a combination of the community, she said. And after all that, Ashley says Salmon River School set up a policy everyone seems to be good with. And because of that, Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls remains on the shelf in the elementary school. The graphic novel, drama, that was moved to the middle school library. A decision, Ashley says, that reflects the local demographics, the concerns of the parents, and the needs of the students. Ashley hopes going forward the school can return to uniting Riggins instead of dividing it with disinformation. We did reach out to Representative Heather Scott to ask her about her presentation last month and whether she has actually spoken with any local school districts about their policies and such. She has yet to respond. Ashley did make it clear she wants other smaller school districts out there to know they are not alone, like she felt a year ago. And she'd be happy to share her experiences in getting through one of the most difficult years she's had as a librarian. Well, yesterday, we told you about a setback to Ketchum's housing crisis. Voters denying an increase to a local option tax that would go towards funding affordable housing projects. We got a lot of comments from Ketchum residents about how this vote wasn't a NIMBY thing, not in my backyard kind of thing, but more of a, well, the city could do a better job of allocating the money they already have from the lot revenue. So we decided to look into it. Katya Stepovic has the story.
Today, the housing is a immensely important, pressing subject.
Mallory Walker is a Ketchum resident, and he says in recent years, he too has been trying to solve the affordable housing crisis.
And worked diligently to try and convince other voters to join me.
He's talking about convincing other voters to vote against a ballot item, the item that would let the city's affordable housing projects take money from the current local option tax and would raise taxes to help complete some of those housing projects.
They chose to lay on a new tax restricted to one thing, housing.
The additions would have resulted in raising retail sales tax by 1%, lodging by 2%, liquor by the glass also 2%, and building materials by 1%. Now that would bring in over $3 million annually just for housing, but the increase didn't pass in Tuesday's election.
I wrote every registered voter a letter and put it in their mailbox at my expense, and I took out ads in the newspaper for a month. Don't create another special fund that's restricted to only one thing, affordable housing, because 10 years from now, that problem might be no longer the pressing need of the community.
In the past 2 years alone, the city of Ketchum has generated over $5,820,000 in lot money, which Walker says is over their budget and could be used to go to affordable housing projects and programs.
There is somewhere between $1.5 million and $2 million of surplus revenue in the existing lot tax that is not being allocated for transportation. It is not being allocated for emergency services. Where it's being allocated, who knows?
The city did confirm that there's about a $1.6 million surplus, but according to the mayor, that can't be used for housing, and there are significant infrastructure investments that are required in the coming years. Current lot money is used in these 9 services, from transportation to property tax relief, but not affordable housing. Walker believes affordable housing should simply be added to this list without increasing taxes.
And what they should have done is ask the voters to approve a simple resolution to allow housing in the existing lot structure.
But the item on the ballot was twofold: to allow housing in the current lot structure and to increase taxes for housing, which majority of Ketchum voters did not find to be the right solution.
Every citizen in Ketchum needs to put their thinking cap on. They need to become philanthropic. They need to basically work on solutions so that we can house the people we need in Ketchum.
And I did speak to Mayor Neil Bradshaw, and he said the city will bring something back to ballots next year. He wants to analyze the vote and get more information from residents. He said they need to adjust ballot language in a year from now to something that has more broad community support.
I want to go back to something that Mr. Walker said to you. Like he said, why would you want to pass a tax that can only be used for something over the next 10 years when it may not be that problem 10 years from now? Imagine if they had passed that 10 years earlier and had some foresight to think this is going to be a problem. Because as we said, housing's always going to be an issue when it comes to these resort communities.
Yeah, and this just touches on it. I mean, even if they were to get some of the lot money, the city council president I spoke to yesterday said that they need funding from 5.5 to like $7 million. So even adding them to this lot funding and increasing that tax would just scratch the surface of what they need to do to get out of this crisis.
Yeah, no easy solution, but everybody needs something soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katya. Sometimes the odds just aren't in your favor. You ever hit all the red lights when you're late to work? Or maybe you parked under a tree when you finally got to work, for shade on a hot day. Then a bunch of birds decided to perch right above your car's windshield? Yeah, it's called just bad luck. Well, that kind of bad fortune befell a Treasure Valley man on the last day of August last year. Overnight, the water at Lucky Peak dropped so much, his boat just got stuck. And that boat sat on the banks of Lucky Peak for almost 9 months. And finally today, water levels were high enough to get that boat back on the water and back out of the water. It's good news, right? Well, when the owner arrived to get his boat, we found a number of things, a number of surprises which added to his bad luck. Here's Joe Paris.
Deep in the distance at Lucky Peak Reservoir sits a lonely boat. Oh yes, there it is. The blue and white Bayliner boat has sat like this, stranded for nearly 9 months. Some of you have seen it, and the first question that comes to mind, how did it get stuck there? Owner Gene Saldana explains.
So last year we came out here and we were camping across the way, and so we didn't even see the sign about it lowering water until we heard about it. They said they were going to release 4 feet a day.
Last August, water levels at Lucky Peak dropped because of ongoing drought conditions. Weather got hot and agriculture operations needed the water. So water levels dropped to a spot usually seen later in the year, think October or November. Saldana thought the boat would be okay as they headed to bed on their camping trip.
Well, we woke up around noon, we came out, and my boat was not quite submerged. It was like we still had a little bit, so we were trying to work it out.
At the same time, several other boats were in metaphorical deep water as the actual water levels dropped. Owners rushed to get their boats out. Saldana's didn't get saved.
Man, I was feeling kind of hopeless, because, my boat was stranded, and I was trying to cry out for help for people to come help pull it out, and everybody was exhausted already from pulling boats out because of so much water getting let out because of the drought.
Bad luck for Saldana. The only option was to wait and wait and wait for water levels to get deep enough to float the boat out. Finally, today, the boat is free and back on solid ground in an intentional way as water levels slowly creep up again. Saldana was warned by a friend, though, who saw the boat before him.
There's some stuff missing, just be prepared. So I said, okay, so we pull up, and sure enough.
We aren't talking about damage done by the weather or water that flooded in. Oh no, this damage is human caused.
Somebody came and apparently they stripped all my seats. They took my stereo, my fish finder. They just kind of stripped all my boat. It was pretty sad, for the circumstances that I've already been in already, that for them to just come in and just have added up my stuff, it's pretty frustrating for sure.
Saldana's bad luck turned into bad choices made by others.
Yeah, for sure. I was worried about the weather, and then I'm like, okay, well, I show up, and the weather's not really what did it. The people did. The people came in and just ransacked my boat and had just pretty much got whatever they wanted.
Saldana says it stings even more thinking about the regular family outings that are now off the table. Replacing everything that was taken will take time.
We go out, we go barbecue, and I get all my family together. So this boat's been around for a long time, within our family.
Saldana expected the weather to have an impact on the boat. How could it not? But the human aspect genuinely surprised him.
To see this happen, it's kind of like, man, this is not what we do here, here in Boise. Everybody's friendly, everybody's nice, and so,
The hope, though, is that new family memories will soon be created on this boat in years to come. Gene Saldana says he plans on getting it back together, piece by piece.
Yes. Hopefully sometime during the summer I'm gonna itch away and and see if I find some seats on Craigslist or something. I don't know.
It's too bad that insult to injury there. I'm sure there's maybe an investigation, but is there any way to possibly find out who did this?
Yeah, he's looking for information. So if you have any idea who got into the boat and stole things away from it, you can actually connect with Gene Saldana. He's working on a campaign right now to fix up the boat and do what he can. He's got to make sure it'll even start, he told us earlier today. But we'll have a link on our website, KTVB.com, where you can connect with Gene Saldana. But Brian, Gene tells us earlier today he's very thankful for the Rangers out at Lucky Peak. They were very helpful in getting the boat back. But really disappointing, as you kind of alluded to, kicking a guy while he's down. It's terrible luck to have the water go down that way. We knew the water levels were coming down last year. It took some people by surprise just how dramatic and quickly it happened. So maybe a lesson learned there from Saldana, one he can share with other people.
And maybe the lesson is also kind of watch for some of those signs, especially this summer, because we could see some of the same conditions. All right, thanks, Joe. Good news and bad news for fans of the Greater Idaho Initiative. On Tuesday, voters in 3 more Oregon counties had a chance to join the cause. The initiative asked voters, should the county cede from Oregon and become part of a future state to be called Greater Idaho? Well, let's just say Greater Idaho got a bit bulkier, but we won't be getting any of those offshore breezes. Get 19 counties in Oregon, all of the east and along a southern slice to the west, to consider a conversation about becoming a Greater Idaho. That big circle around the Portland area, that part left out or left behind would be what's left of Oregon. The initiative gained some ground in the early going. The first 2 years saw voters in 8 Oregon counties agreeing to slide into Idaho. Those would be Harney, Sherman, Lake, Grant, Union, Jefferson, Baker, and Malheur. Then on Tuesday, they hope to add 3 more. Klamath County clicked in with 56% of voters wanting to join the journey of Greater Idaho. But Douglas and Josephine County said, no thanks to being great, we're good. Which means Greater Idaho just lost its proximity to the Pacific. And the new map looks like this. Greater Idaho without oceanfront property? Maybe not so great. More like just a little bit better Idaho, maybe, I don't know. The initiative is expected to be on the ballot in 2 other counties in November, Wallowa and Morrow. And as reported earlier, the initiative, it isn't technically a vote to, just walk away from Oregon. It's actually a talking point that's supposed to encourage state leaders from both Oregon and Idaho to, well, at least have that discussion. But even if both state legislatures agree to move the border, several other things have to happen, including, Congress has to get involved, and they have to agree to it, something that hasn't happened in more than 150 years. All right, let's get right to your comments. A lot of them about censorship today in libraries and books and banning. And the library is a public place where people go to read books. You don't come across, or if you come across a book you don't like, don't read it. Teach your own kids what is and what is not appropriate. Do not use your personal opinions to lecture the public on what we can and cannot read, says Brett. Next one here, also along those lines, Representative Scott interested only in promoting her own agenda and political profile by spreading dangerous and slanderous misinformation. Stop using children as your weapon of choice. Next one here, banning books, just another form of bullying. It's all about fear and the assumption of power. The key is to address the fear and deny the power, which is what a lot of librarians are having to do these days. We'll see you tomorrow.